Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Do you ever stop and think about how if we acted the way Congress acts, we'd all be out of jobs? I mean, seriously, who are these f***ing people? Let's just go through a handful of the top drama fests from this week. AOC did a dramatic live stream this week where she got extremely emotional and talked about her intense trauma. This highlighted a previous comment she had made to Senator Ted Cruz that he tried to get her murdered. She talked about how a police officer didn't correctly identify himself while banging on her door and that he needed better training because it had really upset her and added to her trauma. In that moment, she thought she was going to die. Now, I know a lot of people think she put on an act, but I don't know. The live stream seemed pretty genuine, and my first instinct was to give her the benefit of the doubt that she felt like her life was genuinely in danger, even though it clearly wasn't. Remember, not everyone has lived lives like many of you. Not everyone has military training, police training, fire training, where you're constantly focused and taught to assess scenarios and make the best decision possible. Most people, yes, even 30-year-old congresswomen, freak out when abnormal stress is applied. Look at her and most of the other congressmen and women tweeting that day and contrast it with Jason Crow, the congressman from Colorado, who served in the 82nd Airborne and 75th Ranger Regiment. His quote, "I immediately got into Ranger mode, as I say. I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to take as much action as I can. I did a double check of all the doors, made sure they were locked, escorted the more senior members away from the doors, moving them into a defensive position. I asked folks to take off their member pins so that if the mobs break down the doors, the members would be harder to identify. I took a pen out of my pocket to possibly use as a weapon." But then it got a little bit worse when we found out that she wasn't really anywhere near where the rioters broke in. She was safe the entire time with no imminent threat. Now, that doesn't negate any anxiety that she may have felt, but she really did make it seem like the crowd was bearing down on her. So then, of course, her colleague, Nancy Mace, a Republican, who was 2 doors down, dunked on her on Twitter by saying, well, that she was 2 doors down, and no insurrectionist tried to break down her door. And several other people have kind of acknowledged that if you were in that wing of the Capitol, it was actually pretty safe. But Twitter is a fickle mistress, so naturally everyone pulled up Nancy Mace's tweets from the day when she was forced to evacuate the Capitol, and she seemed pretty scared. And I think they're still fighting about it. Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene had a rough couple of days with the House voting to remove her from committee leadership because, Greene's been a QAnon lackey, complete with their sprawling and absurd web of conspiracy theories suggesting some mass shootings were staged by supporters of gun control, that the 9/11 attacks were orchestrated by government forces, and my personal favorite, that a Jewish cabal had sparked a deadly wildfire with a space beam. And for her role in possibly spurring on and inspiring the Capitol attack. For her part, she basically said she doesn't feel that way anymore and that she shouldn't be punished for her previous beliefs. And I'm totally on board with that if this shit was from her 20s. But it was like 8 months ago. And in the case of the Capitol, a month ago. Our problem here isn't that these people can't work together on policy. It's that these aren't serious people. I would hire none of these people. Can you imagine your employees spending their whole day trying to dunk on each other on social media instead of doing their jobs? Can you imagine your ops manager walking up to you every day and passionately arguing that there was a Jewish space laser wreaking havoc on America's forests? Gone, baby. Gone. We need to stop hiring these unserious people. They are a constant embarrassment. They're just an embarrassment. They cannot get the work done. They simply can't do it. And for the life of me, I don't know why we keep treating them like they have some kind of leadership abilities or insight that the rest of us don't have. Ask yourself honestly, when you look at these clowns, would you hire any of them? And if the answer is no, then start treating them like they aren't worthy rather than defending them because they happen to be on the team that you subscribe to. Enough of this bullshit.
This week, Amazon creator and billionaire mogul Jeff Bezos announced that he was stepping down as CEO. He's being replaced by Andy Jassy, a guy who probably no one has heard of, and Bezos is instead transitioning to executive chairman of the board. Bezos stated that this move is going to give him more time and energy to focus on other projects, like swimming in a Scrooge McDuck vault of money and rollerblading. Many have hypothesized that this could be the beginning of his new career as a global supervillain. A rapper recently had a soul stone implanted in his head, and there's a global viral outbreak. Tom Brady is back in the Super Bowl, and the stars are aligning for something major to kick off, so we think the Lex Luthor-looking millionaire, billionaire, cosplayer might just be stepping into his dream job, overnight delivery of world domination.
More to do with the world and dominating it. Myanmar is currently going through a coup. Also known as Burma, Myanmar resides in South Asia next to Thailand. They recently held a general election where Ms. Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy, which is an awesome name for a political party, won by a landslide. However, most of the armed military and police back the opposition and have taken over the country. Power now rests with Commander-in-Chief Min Hlang. I probably mispronounced that, but I did my best. Maybe he's throwing in with Amazon's League of Evil, who knows. The opposition claims that the election was fraudulent and demanded a rerun of the vote until they decided to just take the country by force. The track records of Miss Suu Kyi and the Commander-in-Chief are just comic book style accolades. The hero was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize while under house arrest, and the villain has been accused of carrying out attacks on ethnic minorities. The UN, UK, EU, Australia, US, basically anybody with a heart and isn't stupidly crazy have all denounced the coup. Everybody that is, except China. One of their news agencies has described the event as a cabinet reshuffle. Ms. Suu Kyi's whereabouts are presently unknown, but it is believed that she is once again under house arrest, looking for that second Nobel Prize. BNN reached out for comment. Suu Kyi responded by stating she was tired of being cooped up inside.
Russia. What a magical place. A place of freedom and warmth and fair political practice. This week, Russian opposition leader Alex Navalny was sentenced to more than 2.5 years in prison for the crime of being poisoned or whatever. The court ruled that while Navalny was in Germany, he violated his probation terms from a case back in 2014. And when asked why he didn't inform parole officers as to his whereabouts, Navalny responded, "Because I was in a coma, jackass. It's kind of hard to make that call, and figure out if you're following your parole when you wake up because the leader of your country is trying to kill you by poisoning your underwear. But I've never been in that position, so who knows." Anyways, Navalny mentioned that Putin said live on air that he had given the order for Alexei to be treated in Germany, which by treated we all assume means taken care of. Anyways, Alexei has taken this all in stride, maintaining a nonchalant attitude towards his sentencing, which is pretty badass. He even drew a heart on the glass barrier that he was held behind, saying hi to his wife. He also publicly stated that Putin has ceased engaging in politics and has mostly been holding secret meetings on how to poison people's underpants, dubbing him Vladimir the Poisoner of Underpants. Putin couldn't be reached for a response, but his advisors did say that when he does make a statement, it will be brief.
Since November, thousands of farmers in India have been protesting outside of New Delhi over farming law reforms implemented by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in September. This is a clusterfuck that I'm still trying to drive information on, so I'll share what I know so far. The protesters are challenging Modi's efforts to reshape farming in India, giving less control to the government and more control to the farmers and private investors. These reforms, however, seem to generally be viewed as much needed and decades overdue. However, Modi has a less than stellar record when it comes to looking out for the people. The farmers have been peacefully protesting outside the capital until last week when they clashed with police. Thousands of farmers tried to enter the capital as part of a massive tractor rally, which sounds kind of awesome. Something that happens in North Carolina every weekend, for example. Dozens of protesters were injured and one of them died, causing the government to plan on closing highways leading to the capital. Hundreds of farmers clashed with police and many were seen driving their tractors into the line of police. The Prime Minister offered to suspend the laws for up to 2 years, but the farmers rejected the offer, saying they want them completely repealed. This week, Modi ordered the internet in areas of protest to be cut off, which you know is bad because people get pissed off if you mess with their Wi-Fi. What I'm gathering is that India's agricultural system has been in real need of reform. A minority of farmers receive ridiculous benefits and subsidies like free electricity, which have been abused and have hurt not just the economy, but also the environment. The laws are an effort to give more control to the farmers and allow them to pick the highest bidder with less or no government interference, which sounds like a good deal on paper. So I still need to do a lot more research because none of this is making clear sense just yet. No matter which side you lean on, it's universally agreed that when you're trying to mow people over, that's a major detractor.
Last week, a worrisome Amber Alert went out to Texans warning them of a child abduction. The alert listed Chucky the doll as the abductor. Apparently there was an alert being run by the Texas Department of Security and it didn't mean to send it out to people, which means that Chucky has successfully infiltrated the Department of Security in Texas and is probably holding them hostage. The incident is being compared to 3 years ago when Hawaiians received an alert that there was a ballistic missile inbound, which is just not that comparable because on the one hand you have a 3'1" movie star abducting a fake kid and the other one is imminent death. Also, side note, Chucky never made sense to me. He's not a threat. I could easily kick that 3-foot Muppet over the goalposts. Also, and maybe it's just me, but whenever I send out a test alert, I usually send out something like test instead of impending doom. Maybe I'm doing it wrong though.
Rapper Lil Uzi Vert revealed his 10-carat diamond implant situated in the middle of his forehead this week. Just in case you were feeling good about your life choices, just know that you failed to be the first dude to nail a shiny rock to his face to the tune of $24 million. You loser. The one question circulating the internet about it is when is Thanos showing up to rip it out of his face?
This week, a man in California was denied service at a restaurant because he wasn't wearing a mask. Sounds pretty standard 2020 stuff, but just you wait. The man is still at large and wasn't able to order a delicious plate of chicken and waffles because he wasn't wearing a mask, breaking the store's COVID policy. When informed he could be served if he was wearing a mask, the man went back to his car to get his mask. Sorry, I meant gun. My man must have just watched Falling Down because when he approached the counter, he pointed his gun at the registrar, and instead of asking them to dump all the money into a bag, he simply asked them to put all the chicken and waffles they had into a bag. He didn't want a single penny. He did, however, tell them to fork over all their syrup, which turned it into a very sticky situation.
And finally, in Florida Man news, Florida Man will often reveal himself in the form of others, but this week he has graced us with his true form, and it is just what you expected. 22-year-old Matthew Leatham was arrested for calling 911 for a ride home, which is an interesting workaround to the cost of an Uber. Unfortunately, it didn't work out, and he got arrested for misuse of 911 and also possession of marijuana, which didn't exactly surprise anyone. Honestly, the fact that he was only holding marijuana is surprising. You may be asking yourself, how can you be sure this Florida man is the Florida man? Well, it's because this man has the state outline of Florida tattooed on his forehead. If that isn't the mark of our friendly neighborhood Florida man, then I don't know what is. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already. And remember, this is Super Bowl Sunday weekend where we are going to have a rematch of the 2018 AFC Championship. But this time, Tom Brady is not a New England Patriot. He is a traitor for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who's going to win? There's no telling. History tells us generally don't bet against Tom Brady, but I don't know. I mean, he's only 78 years old, so maybe this is finally the end. We're going to find out. As always, you can get 25% off at rangerup.com when you use the code BNN. And remember, post a t-shirt idea in the comments, and if we use it, you get a free t-shirt. You get called out on BNN as a hero, and Matt Finney will write a poem for you.
And don't forget to visit our OnlyFans /Nick and Matt for extra content.